The healthcare market is shifting so fast right now, and honestly, if you're a travel nurse in 2026, where you decide to clock in could literally mean the difference between a standard paycheck and, well, life-changing wealth. Today, we're unpacking some truly eye-opening data from Travel Healthcare Pay. We are going to look at the massive earning disparities between nursing specialties. By the end of this, I promise you, you're going to look at your next contract in a completely different light. So imagine two nurses, right? They graduated in the exact same class, they hold the exact same RN license, and they both work a grueling 36-hour week. Yet one of them takes home $1,000 more every single week. It sounds like a payroll error, doesn't it? I mean, you're both working 312s, you're both dealing with the incredible demands of patient care, but one of you is walking away with substantially more money. Your specialty is, quite frankly, the single biggest lever you have on your travel income. But it's crazy how many nurses never actually stop to compare the raw numbers across different units. When we pull the current 2026 data, the divide just becomes crystal clear. A Cath Lab travel nurse can easily out-earn a Med-Surg traveler by over $1,000 every single week. Just let that sink in for a second. We're not talking about a monthly difference here. That is over $4,000 a month in extra earning potential, purely based on the specialty designation on your contract. No crazy overtime, no picking up extra shifts. This is just the baseline market value for the specific unit you're walking into. So let's break down the top tier. At the absolute top, Cath Lab and specialized operating room placements completely dominate the field. Cath Lab is pulling in roughly 20% above the national travel average, sitting really comfortably in that $2,500 to $3,500 a week range. And right alongside them, OR nurses, especially in cardiac and transplant, are commanding just incredible rates. We're talking $3,000 to $4,200 a week for the absolute top-tier placements. PACU, cardiac, and labor and delivery, they also sit firmly in this highly lucrative bracket. Now, dropping down a level into the middle of the pack, we see the foundational critical care specialties, your ICU, the NICU, and the emergency room. These roles hover right around or maybe just slightly above the national average for travel nurses. And look, make no mistake, these are incredibly demanding, high-skilled jobs. Absolutely. But because the candidate pool is just larger than, say, a highly specialized pediatric cardiac OR nurse, the pay rates naturally stabilize a bit closer to the middle of the market curve. And rounding out the lower end of the travel pay spectrum, we've got Telemetry, Med-Surg, and Psych. Now, don't let that bottom tier label fool you. Yes, these contracts run below the national travel average, but they still offer compensation that totally beats standard staff nursing roles. And hey, it certainly beats a hospital pizza party, right? The volume of jobs here is massive, which gives you great geographical flexibility, but from a pure gross income perspective, these do sit at the base of the mountain. Okay, so the crucial point here is that this pay gap isn't just arbitrary. Hospitals aren't just drawing specialties out of a hat and throwing money at them. This whole compensation structure is driven by four very specific, very powerful market forces. If you understand these four drivers, you'll understand exactly how to navigate toward those higher-paying roles in your own future. First up is skill complexity. We're talking about highly specialized procedures here. Operating an ECMO circuit in the NICU, managing a cardiac bypass in the CVOR, or assisting with advanced robotic surgery. These simply aren't skills a general float nurse can just pick up in a week of orientation. The learning curve is incredibly steep, which means the pool of qualified travelers who can hit the ground running on day one is remarkably small. And as we know, in any market, scarcity drives up the price. Second, these premium specialties face a chronic undersupply of talent. Think about the perioperative training pipelines for a second. They take years to build and develop. You literally can't just mint a new Cath Lab nurse overnight. So because of the structural bottleneck in training, these high-acuity departments just stay perpetually short-staffed nationally. Facilities are essentially forced into a bidding war just to secure the limited number of travelers who actually have these skills. The third driver is all about the bottom line, facility revenue. Surgical suites and cardiac catheterization labs are the financial engines of the healthcare system. They generate massive, massive income. If an OR sits empty because they don't have the specialized nursing staff to run it, the hospital bleeds money. Therefore, facilities will happily pay a premium rate, even $4,000 a week to a traveler, if it guarantees that a revenue-generating surgical suite stays fully operational. Finally, the facility designation matters deeply. A Level 1 trauma center or a major academic cardiac program is naturally going to pay more than a smaller community hospital, even for the exact same specialty. Why? Because the acuity of the patients is higher, the pace is way faster, and the bar for who can successfully survive a 13-week contract there is significantly higher. They are paying for proven, bottle-tested competence. But what happens when we look beyond standard RN specialties? As we analyze this data, there is one role that continually, and I mean continually, shatters the scale. It's the role that a lot of ambitious nurses have their eyes on for the long game. $270,000. While the Bureau of Labor Statistics might list slightly lower historical averages, the absolute most current 2026 industry surveys from sources like the AANA show certified registered nurse anesthetists pulling in an average of $270,000 a year. It is a staggering leap in earning potential. Now, we treat CRNAs as an outlier in this explainer because it's definitely not a simple lateral move. It requires rigorous graduate-level schooling, and it comes with a fundamentally different, autonomous scope of practice. It completely shatters the standard RN pay ceiling. If you're looking at the absolute mathematical peak of nursing compensation, the CRNA route is the undeniable heavy hitter of the whole industry. Okay, so how do you actually put all this data to work for you? How do you bridge the gap from a lower-paying specialty to these highly lucrative top-tier roles? Well, it won't happen overnight. You obviously can't just apply for a travel OR job with zero experience. But there is a very realistic, proven path to leveling up your career and your paycheck.
If you want ICU money, your most accessible bridge is usually an internal critical care transition program, right at your current staff hospital. If you want to jump to the ER, you need to secure your ACLS and TNCC certifications and aggressively pursue at least 1 year of high-acuity experience. And if you're chasing that top-tier OR money, you have to tackle the highest bar. That means completing a formal, structured perioperative training program before you even think about hitting the road.
But what if you're already in a great specialty and you just want to maximize your rate right now? The absolute fastest return on investment comes down to a really simple choice. Get your specialty certifications before you travel instead of after. Traveling without a board certification literally leaves money on the table. Holding credentials like the CCRN for critical care, the CNOR for the operating room, or the CEN for emergency nursing, that changes your contract negotiations entirely. Just having those letters behind your name on day one immediately gives you the leverage to add $100 to $300 to your weekly paycheck. It proves to the facility that you are already at the standard of competency they expect from a really expensive traveler. It reduces their risk, and it opens a door to those premium tier placements. Honestly, it is the single highest ROI move you can make for your resume right now. Now, while your specialty is a massive lever for your income, remember it's not the only one. The geographical market, the specific facility type, and your own negotiation skills all stack right on top of your base specialty rate. I highly encourage you to utilize tools like the Pay Decoder at Travel Healthcare Pay to run your specific numbers. You need to know exactly what your current offer nets after taxes, stipends, and expenses, because at the end of the day, gross pay is just vanity. So armed with all this data and seeing the massive variations across the industry in 2026, I want to leave you with this final thought to explore. What is your specialty actually worth right now? Are you leaving money on the table by not having that certification or by not pushing for that transition program? The market data is out there. The real question is, how are you going to use it?